That's just a little bit of a taste of M80 when they played in Copenhagen, and now it's M80 coming up next. Game 2, we're already on it. As soon as we're done with one, we move immediately into the next on a very fast-paced 6-game schedule. So for M80 and DarkZero as Game 2, I just had this one personally tagged as my game of the day, just looking through what we had on the schedule. Like, this one, if we can use the really overused B word, barn burner, we're probably going to get it here.
Yeah, this is the match that I've been waiting to see. This is going to be the best. I think this is going to be two major level teams as well. I expect to see both of these squads in Atlanta. So for M80 and DarkZero facing off, I'm pretty excited.
I mean, if we're even just going off of these two teams versing each other, I mean, if M80 is going to be playing like how they played at Riyadh, it's going to be a slugfest. And also if DZ coming off of Breaking Point, how we saw them play, I mean, if these two are playing at that level of siege, at the highest level in that regard, it's going to be a slugfest. Let's
specifically just touch on M80 to start with, obviously. I mean, if you want to go watch the documentary to get a little bit more an inside look at how they got through that major, please go do that. It's on the YouTube channel. It needs the views. Go do it. And it's also phenomenally insightful stuff. For M80 in particular, for Stage 2, they had some off-season play, unlike what we saw from Sonics. So of the two teams that didn't make any roster transfers, they did really well as far as off-season competition goes. So there's a little bit less for us to shake off in theory, right?
You'd hope so. I mean, for M80, they have proven themselves, I think, in a higher stakes tournament, but it was less recent. And DarkZero looked very good in Breaking Point, even if it wasn't as high of a level, even if it wasn't on LAN. They really dominated that tournament. So I'm expecting these two teams to both come in with their full rosters 100% ready.
Yeah, and like you were saying, match of the day. And what I talked on the point just early, like this is going to be the game of the day. These two just going at it, huge slugfest back and forth. And I just really want to get into the game. I want to see this played out.
Specifically for M80, we got to talk about the Wonder Kid, because there's no way we're going to not be able to talk about Spoit when he's in the lobby at one particular moment. And there are lots of players that we can specifically talk about for M80, but we need to give Spoit his flowers for how well he performed, not just in Stage 2, not just in Copenhagen, but when they played in Riyadh, he still is the same rock that he was when he was playing in Europe. And I mean, Lax, am I crazy, or is he farming North American players more than he was farming European players?
Listen, you know, I don't like to give EU any credit, but when it comes to Spoit, you got to. Spoit's a flashy player. He's a great player. He's a smart player. He's a content creator that turned pro, and he's top of the charts. So, I mean, you know, it just goes to show, like, you can start somewhere and end up even better. And, I mean, Spoit is literally that guy. He's him. He's Himothy.
He really is, and I mean, him coming onto the roster for M80 has really pushed them above and beyond. I thought he was their MVP at their off-season tournaments that they were able to play through. You know, Gamers Without Borders was one where I thought we saw Kino pop off a little bit more, and then when we got to LAN, that was Spoit's environment. You know he likes to play in front of a crowd with the highest stakes, and
who doesn't?
Even here early in the stage, right, against a team like DarkZero, who you have played across 9 maps this season alone, the stakes are pretty high, even just for your first group stage game.
But the best part about M80 is, yes, they have the boy Wonder, but there's not a single player on this team that you can really discredit by name. Everybody, on the face of it, if you name them in a crowded room, everyone will be like, yeah, that guy's fantastic. You're not going to have that many detractors for anybody on this team. It just means that the expectations for them are probably higher than any other team in the North American League as of right now. So if they don't capitalize, Lax, where does that put them?
I mean, if they don't capitalize on that, they're going to be the middle of the pack. I couldn't see them going any lower than that. But if they can't capitalize on their play and their uniqueness, then, I mean, they're going to be middle of the pack. So I don't see that happening by any means. I see them at the top.
Yeah, I think you can dive into some of the games that these two teams have played. Obviously, they did play a best of 5 against one another over the offseason, so there's a lot to dig into with that. I thought what we really saw from M80 was powerhouse attacks. They were able to come through, find those opening engagements with Spoit or Iconic, then be able to follow that up. You saw the late round clutching from Diaz or from Kino. You really did see it from all 5 players coming through. Where things started to slip a little bit were the defenses. They lost 2 maps in that best of 5 series, and I think their defenses were the big reason why. And we saw that trend continue through other offseason games that M80 played. You go to the grand finals that they played against BDS, they won 5 defensive rounds through the entire best of 5 grand finals. They lost 5 defensive rounds in the first half of the first map. So for DZ, I think if you're looking at M80, you're looking at where you can exploit some weaknesses and maybe shut down these wonder kids like Spoit and Iconic. Defense is where you need to punish this squad.
Specifically, M80 is great, but there were a couple players that were better than them on the scoreboard. One of them was Gav, and one of them was NJR. The two highest rated players of Stage 1 are on the same team. They were very, very close to one another from a statistical point of view, and NJR was king in several different stats categories last stage. We expect them to do the exact same thing back on NA Online again.
Yeah, I think NJR has long been one of the most underrated players in the league. Maybe I have to stop saying that now because I think people have started to wake up on him, but he is that kind of support player who can run around on the smoke, run around with those shotguns. I'm really excited to see the shotgun battle even in between him and Kino in the server today. But yeah, he's been a really solid piece for DarkZero, and he's been massive for them both at the major and in Stage 1.
Yeah, and like I'm gonna tell you from a personal point of view of even playing against Nick or NJR. Sorry, I call him Nick.
You're on a first name basis.
No, I mean Nick is a phenomenal player. He shows up. He shows up when he needs to, and when he's not showing up, he's still helping his team. So he's still like he's never at the bottom. I don't really ever see him at the bottom. He's just in the middle or he's at the top. And like I said, he shows up when he needs to show up. And if he's not at the top, he's still playing the support that he needs in order to push DarkZero further ahead.
The thing is, DarkZero are facing another relatively unique challenge, except it's not really all that unique to them, because when they change players around, we already know sometimes it takes a while for them to get into that system. Thing is, DarkZero played an off-season tournament, they played Breaking Point, they played it with Rice, who is now officially confirmed to be on DZ. He's playing with all these veterans, NJR, Panba at this point, and of course Troy Canadian, but now you're doing it in an online context with everybody trying at 100%. Even if they won Breaking Point with Rice, there's still going to be a bit of a learning curve to figure out how to fit him onto the team.
Sure, and you know, I saw on Reddit there were some doubters when Rice came onto the team for DarkZero. You know, DZ waited a long time to announce their 5th player, and when they said Rice is playing in Breaking Point, the Reddit reaction was like, really? All this time for Rice? But the results speak for themselves, and I'm not shocked because of it, right? Although Rice maybe didn't have the greatest performance when we saw him in the LCQ back in Stage 1, you go back to the SI quals and some of the off-season tournaments, and I think Rice really is one of those players who can pop off and really dominate a game. I love seeing him on DarkZero and Breaking Point. I think while he wasn't the star player who was finding all the frags or anything, he worked well within the team, and he's a big reason why DarkZero had the results that they did.
Well, and you also got to think about it. It's DarkZero. They're a phenomenal team. They aren't just going to pick up anybody. They're gonna go through their selection. They're gonna figure out who they need, who fits the best. And even if Rice isn't popping off, look at the players on the roster.
True,
like, you don't necessarily even need more firepower on that team. If you have it, great. But you have an amazing roster, and you're adding Rice that is going to learn from these players on top of that. So, I mean, again, Rice being picked up, no one can say anything. Like, he made it. He's there.
Yeah.
And DZ is also a team that is no slouch. They aren't just going to, again, pick up anyone random. They're going to go through who they need to, and Rice was it. So I have no doubt that in the confidence that DZ picked him up for a specific reason, and it's going to work out for him.
See, the thing is, you're a little bit biased, because you were on the desk with me when we watched them beat Space Station, and the thing that they said they wanted to fix the most was their snail pace attacks, because they know sometimes they're a little bit behind the ball, just from a speed perspective on executes. They already understand that. Is it best to try and fix that problem with a new player, or try to do it with a veteran? Is it a risk to be going with somebody like Rice as opposed to somebody with a little bit more tenure? What do you think?
I mean, I'll be completely honest. No matter whether you're picking up someone new or you're picking up a vet, it's a 50-50 no matter what. It either is going to be the best decision you made or it could be the worst decision you made. Whatever that ends up being, you have to roll with it. And that's just plain and simple.
They already tried the veteran. They did that. They had Achieved in Stage 1, and I think Achieved's a great player. He's a world champion, but he didn't work on DarkZero. I'm glad that he wasn't on that team for longer than he was, because I think DarkZero is better now that they've made this change. It just wasn't meshing with Achieved there. So moving in with Rice, I'm excited to see a new DarkZero. I'm excited to see a new trend for this team, and I hope that it can push them to make it to a major again and even push beyond where they finished in the Swiss round in Copenhagen.
All right, you guys ready? We're going to roll a D9 to figure out what map we're going to. Ready? 3, 2, 1. What map are we playing?
So again, this map ban phase, very exciting. It is Border that we come out on. I predicted that. Let's go. This is a tough map ban phase just because M80, they had 2 of their most important maps kicked out for them, right? They don't like, or they loved Villa, they loved Theme Park. With those both gone, they're kind of forced into a corner, and I think DarkZero, they're pretty happy coming to Border against M80.
Lax, just from these 2 teams, who do you think Border just favors on the face of it without diving into the specifics too much?
I'm going to have to say DZ here, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. The way DZ plays and the fundamentals that they have, I think Border just kind of plays more into their favor. I could be wrong, though. Could be wrong, but I do think DZ overall.
I like the fact that we're seeing Border. There was a time and place where we didn't see it happen very much in North America. Now, because Villain Theme Park are gone, Border is prime and ready to become a staple in North America. It's M80 and DarkZero on match 2 of day number 1. It's Carter and Sam with the call.
I mean, Sam, let's just take a moment and appreciate the situation Rice finds himself in. First game of the NAL. Your debut, it's already against M80. Next up, it's on Border against M80, where you got to take ones against Spoit and DS Lucas. I mean, that's got to be as rough a debut as any.
It just gets rougher the farther you go down the list, too. It's like, is there anywhere where somebody's going to potentially give them a little bit of a break? And the answer is no, because M80 across the board is absolutely ridiculous, and they have been for some time. This team has been roaring through 2023, and something that we're hoping, fingers crossed, comes to a head here. Whether it be at this next major or at SI, we don't know, but we can definitely see them catapulting into the history books here soon. So that's what Rice has to deal with. DarkZero, though, across the board, you want to talk about history. We got quite a few names that are in the books themselves. Some major winners here, some hammer lifters, and the likes of Canadian 2 times. And Gavini probably feeling pretty good about himself now, especially because he's not the freshest face on the team anymore.
Nah, he's not the new kid who's got a lot to prove. I mean, Gavini's already proved himself in loads of tournaments across loads of stages. So even if he was still, kind of had that new sheen on him, I would not worry about Gavini whatsoever. But Rice, being in that hard support position where you often are putting up less numbers than some other players on your team, he is going to have, I think, a little bit harder of a time making a splash, at least in terms of public perception, than I think Gavini would have. Or even, if you think about it, NJR when he hopped on this roster a couple years ago. But I also want to echo one of the points made by Lax on the desk, which is why DarkZero has a chance at this matchup. Because even if Rice wasn't here and they had a ham sandwich filling in today, Panmazoo and NJR are probably winning this match or making it close just by themselves if they are performing at their full capacity. Because DZ, especially online, have some of the best gunners in the world. And not only Gavini, but Panmazoo and NJR. I mean, M80 might have a lot of star power, but DZ have some standout performers of their own.
Absolutely. And to drive the point home even further, I mean, Canadian, as long as he exists on a server, you never really know how things could go.
No,
I mean, whether it would be positive or negative. I mean, Canadian is just, he's always been that guy that makes it to where things are pretty entertaining. And I've always really appreciated the way that he's played this game. So we'll see what DarkZero have for today. Canadian has another rookie underneath his echelon here. We'll see what he can potentially get done with that. Kind of a unique lineup coming in here from DZ for Border, but one that I really like the adaptation of. We don't see a lot of Finka play anymore, but Border definitely seems like a map where she would be very useful with the amount of damage that the defense can try and deal with you early on, especially.
This is a lineup, building off that Fink, I mean, this is a lineup that is almost built artificially with aggression in mind. I mean, you have the Finka to recover lost health, any damage sustained. You've got the Dokkaebi for roam clears, the Candelas that you can use for making an execute onto the site easier or an entry into CC easier, especially with that Azami taken off the board by DarkZero. When M80 defend Armory, as they are doing right now, holding that CC position is a lot harder with that Azami off the board, and you might even just play passively around it entirely. DS will instead focus on dealing with the Armory back players with some traditional holes made in that Armory wall, and as the Warden in this position, this is a dangerous operator to have to take fight against. I mean, these smoke grenades, they might feel like they do a lot, but if DS just stands still, he could find the player repelling in, as DZ find a lot of kills everywhere else. There's Gavini and Panba, both with a G36, acquiring a 3v2 lead for DarkZero.
Comes to a lull now, though. DarkZero will at least be able to deliver the pretty big initial blow, and we'll give you that. 3 players go down, but M80 still have a little bit left in the tank. Nitro Cell in both of their pockets, and DS and Iconic both in their right. Try and take this round, especially if this next pick can fall their way. Nitro Cell placed, just to make sure that DS knows that he has that assistance. Looks like it's going to be Gavini that could potentially be the next name marked off the list, but not going to go that way. DarkZero trying to flirt with their map control right now as they've taken full control of the office side, just trying to springboard off of this into an archive take.
Oh, here Gavini goes, moving on in. As long as this Warden is alive, though, these Candelas are always in question. That pre-placed by Iconic about a minute prior. finally comes back in the last minute, detonates, makes it a 2v2. Now this position is so much more palatable for M80. Iconic can sit on top main. That's where the final Candela goes out. That leaves Diaz's line of sight into Archives completely clear. Iconic can even rotate up main stairs now, maybe provide a second angle for Diaz to aid with. There goes the Ying. It is Iconic to find that third and Diaz to close it out. Very, very promising start by Panbazoo and Gavini, but it's M80 and Diaz Iconic, the clutch ministers, to close out round 1.
And a hell of a round from them, because they had to shut the gate on DarkZero there. They exploded onto that top floor, and without those quick thinking frags coming out from M80, I really think DarkZero simply just roll over them and we're into round 2. But I mean, all for naught there for DZ. They are able to get so many kills, especially for Gavini's sake. That crazy Ash peak we saw at the top of Metal really working out for his sake. But as for M80, just sticking to their guns, man, making sure that they try and play things out to its fullest potential, especially with that Nitro cell going down underneath. You can see how M80 are always keeping that, those gears rolling inside of their mind, just seeing what they can potentially add to the round that could be the fold that ends up knocking DarkZero over.
And that's the kind of plays that I think a lot of us are hoping we'll see from M80 inside of the NAL before we even get to talking about the Atlanta Major. Because while they had a great showing at G8, making it to that finals, a lot of us thinking about Copenhagen, in which they had a very quick exit for what seemed to be a finals contending team. They're still looking to make a big recovery in terms of the perception and also in the quality of play that we've seen inside of the regional leagues, inside of major events, and going from Copenhagen to now, seeing the ability to turn 2v3s into round wins, to work off vertical C4s and communicate between these teammates. Seeing plays like that from M80, not just in one round, but across maps, across games, across play days, that's going to show that M80 we saw at G8 is not the M80 we saw in Copenhagen.
And like we were talking about earlier, like this is a roster where you look across the entire lineup and you're like, okay, this is one that can definitely go down in the history books. Like they have so much talent here, and they have such a well flushed out version of Siege that they're playing that there really isn't a rhyme or reason as to why they couldn't compete to be the best in the world. So that's what we're looking to see if they can accomplish. And it really all starts right here, right? The very first day of stage 2 to see what the tail end of 2023 has to offer for M80.
Right now, M80 offering DZ a little bit of free control, at least in terms of that courtyard, but everyone around it, every room around it, stationed by M80 defenders, so not free on closer examination. Oh, what a shot by Kino right there. Snapshot onto Gavini, but quickly traded out. But an Ash for a castle, I'll take that trade any day. Utility already placed by the castle, whereas Gavini still had Ash charges burning the hole in his pocket. He'll definitely miss that once you get into the next minute 30, in case there are any F-Knots that maybe you want to take down, or really any BPs, though now that upon closer examination, not a whole lot of bulletproof utility brought by M80.
Not too much, but a lot of explosives being delivered. They can actually end up hitting their mark. They do have DS to try and assist with this, but he's mostly just for the read as to what DarkZero wants to do with their play. And as for DarkZero, they're sticking to what we usually see from them. It's going to be a lower time to execute as they try and get some extra info, but did not know what was going on inside of 90. That'll punish them. Rice will go down as he steps in for the very first time inside of top east, and he gets about 5 paces in before he's decapitated. A minute remains now as M80 is chomping at the bit for DarkZero to step up here so that they can end this next round. Canadian's going to start the plant in sight, and it looks like it's fully secured. It looks
no
like
way.
everyone is completely gone, and Panbazoo has full coverage of the rotation here inside of Customs. Iconic does have the rotation in the back end, though, so it does look like he can at least circumvent that, but this is going to be a really, really hard ask for M80. They have like practically zero info on this.
No, not a lot of... Oh, big kill by Gomez there as Panbazoo, who is the main player cutting off the rotation back to site, covering the diffuser, falls. Diaz takes the 1v1. NJR steals it out. He's got 1 second left. Gomez just barely enough time. 2 clutches in a row give M80 a wider lead.
A wild set of affairs so far between these two. DarkZero definitely still looking like themselves in terms of pacing, right? But M80 really doing their due diligence when it comes to, exploiting that kind of pace, making sure that they're gun up and holding some of these you know, more harsher angles on these entry points later on into the round, and is really, really mistreating DarkZero this round, especially. Last one, obviously that one's a little bit up in the air as M80 was doing a lot in that one, especially for 2 of their members. But this round, M80 able to elongate a lot of things. And I think the wildest thing about that round, Carter, that we have to talk about is the fact that not only were they not playing the site, and Canadian was able to secure that and get that plant down, but they won the retake in such a convincing fashion. The map setup really working its way back into their favor. You saw DZ try to line things up with the Yana inside of customs, but all these little rat holes through the wall completely work their way around what we saw positioning wise for Pamba.
It's those plays, too, that can make M80 such a menace in best of ones. I mean, they definitely struggled in the best of one part of the NAL last stage, but when you have players like Iconic, like DS Lucas, performing in the situations in which they excel the most, which are those 2v3s, those 1vx's, that's where some of the magic happens. And I named Iconic and DS Lucas, but you could say the same about plenty of other players depending on the day. Gomez, Spoit, Kino, no matter who it is. In a best of one like this, where sure, maybe we look in the aggregate and notice that DarkZero have had very solid reads and very solid early rounds in rounds 1 and 2. Not only blitzing for that control and acquiring it in round 1, but recognizing that M80 weren't really playing the bomb site in round 2, then moving in and going for a plant. But because M80's star power is so stacked top to bottom, they can still close out those moments in something as narrow and nail-biting as a 1v1 that we saw in round 2.
And it's just all those little minor details, right? If Iconic doesn't have that rotate, he has to try and go over and flirt with Pamba and customs, has to try and traverse that entire open area next to the metal desk. It's just not exactly something they'd want to do. Unfortunately, they don't have to. Now here for round 3, DarkZero looking to get their very first round of stage 2 under their belt. They want to get this one dead and gone, give Rice kind of a position to work from, as these 2 rounds so far have not been exactly great for him. He's lost a round in this one, but he does still have 2 calls to try and assist the squad. And DarkZero doing their best to try and process this top floor. They do have quite a bit of presence to deal with as well.
2 players sitting inside of Fountain and Archive respectively at the moment. Still some intel denial being put to good use by M80. Those Mozzie Pass placed early on, perhaps even as an afterthought, certainly being a very focal problem for DarkZero as they continue to try to find utility or intel in the map. They've got more than half their drones alive, still got 6, but none of that intel acquired or lost drones have yielded much control. Panmazu has now walked into CCTV. The rest of DarkZero, or some of them at least, dropping down to that bottom floor, but nothing solid. They're still grasping at straws at the moment, thinking, okay, where do we go? Can we acquire vertical? I mean, moving into Armory is probably not even going to happen at this point with the amount of defenders still inside of Office and Archives, but no, Gavini, he's creeping up 90. Cam's down 2. Canadian again moving in with the bomb down. Can M80 react? 2 rounds in a row? No, they're none the wiser. They might have won round 2, but again, a bomb has gone down.
He's out.
And the guard is asleep at the wheel. Indeed, he's out, but Gomez is still in. He's got the first kill on to Canadian in a 5v4. Gomez moves to retake the top floor. Iconic moves to the diffuser. Will anybody from DarkZero react? No, it's Gavini, not on the diffuser, but on 2 different players on M80.
Stick it.
Yeah, he wants to. He needs to. He's got to do it. Diaz on the coverage. Will anybody from DarkZero run back in time? 2 defuses in a row. 3 clutches in a row. M80, they might be slow to start, but boy, did they come to play.
This is the wildest objective play I have seen on Border in what feels like eons. This is so crazy. Not only did they not have the oversight on both of the plants that we just saw, but they recover both of them. And the second one, Iconic, technically could have just stuck the first one and nobody was covering
or the second.
it.
Or the
Yeah,
third.
it's just it's so mind-blowing what we're witnessing here, because that's the kind of stuff that you never see in Siege. You never see a plant go down like that and then Canadian get picked, and there isn't another person for a country mile looking for that case, you know? It's so crazy, but this is what M80's forcing them to do. You see, even going down to that last minute links, they don't have any real control over the actual players of M80. Yeah, they have some portions of the map, but there's nothing that they're actually doing that is affecting the players and where they're trying to hold on to control. And right now, it's really M80 that's got DarkZero in this harness, and they've just not been able to find a way to break it.
And that's just the issue for DarkZero. I mean, you look at this and you're thinking to yourself, we're making the right reads. We're noticing, at least on getting the bomb down, that nobody's watching, that we have an opportunity, and even if we're cutting it close, we may be able to get away with it. You know, we got 70 to 30 odds. They're making those correct reads, but as you said, the players that they're relying on to cut off anybody from M80 going for those retakes, some are succeeding. NGR being one example in round 2, Gavini being another in round 3. Some of those players are working, but M80 are still contesting that retake enough that it's working out where they can get Iconic in a position to go for that defuse, and nobody from DarkZero, aside from that player on vent window who almost got there in time but fell to DS Lucas. M80 are still getting into those positions and closing out these rounds, and now 3 in a row. DarkZero will have to go back to Armory, not by their choice, but by a logical one from M80. Maybe again, we'll see Gavini and Panmazoo quickly sprint into the map for early control, but if they do, it's coming from a completely different direction than round 1.
Yeah, really showing off the thought process of Siege as well, right? Because, like you said, DarkZero's playing everything fundamentally correct. All the map presence, the clearing, the plants, everything has been honed and played out very well from their end. But it's the fact that they haven't had presence up against the players of M80. And also the fact that M80 is able to give up that map control and still have just this ability to retake when really whenever they want to, it seems like, right? It's just, it's so crazy to me. But we'll have to see how the remaining, half of this defensive round goes for M80. Canadians switching it up a bit to try and get a better read on the top floor. But the thing I'm concerned with, Carter, is the fact that the time has really what's been harming them so often here. Yeah, they do have some presence, and they might be able to get a couple of reads on where the locations might be, but you see M80 already adding layers to this plan to try and thwart DarkZero's clear.
It's such an excellent counter to that Monty push. They've seen him pushing up into Fountain, and they've also likely recognized that DarkZero, while they might spot openings in their sights set up, they haven't taken a lot of these players to task as they have before. But there we go. Panbazoo fixing for the mistake I was about to put at the feet of DarkZero. Moves down below, doesn't spot Iconic, but spots that important C4. Bit of a misstep on those Selma charges, of course, but NGR still has one. With no C4 down below, Canadian can start walking in. Kino also on this position now has to back up or play with a shotgun around the corner. This position constantly relayed to everyone on DarkZero thanks to that Montaigne. Gavini will cut him down. Now 2-2 on the entry between these two teams, but none of those rounds have gone DarkZero's way. Oh, what a quick peek by Gomez to even the scoreline. That just puts DZ on the effective back foot with only 20 seconds left. Canadian now just moving into the bomb site to get the plant. One C4 still in hand, but it's caught on the wall. That'll let Canadian get the bomb down with just no! A quarter second too late. Canadian falls to the C4. Nobody from DZ can recover. M80 in these small one-on-one moments simply have no equal in the server.
Oh, Lynx. They do everything so correct, but it takes them so long to warm up to the idea. That's the big key here. They're able to at least get things handled downstairs. DarkZero get the wall open and start setting things up. But they didn't have any time to flirt back and forth with this and try and pull out a couple of M80 players, get rid of some utility, get rid of some of these angles. Instead, it was just hell in a handbasket. They had to go for the execution right then because they had zero time. And it didn't work out for them because of that. All of these angles that were getting adopted, M80 were ready for. They knew they had to do it at some moment in time. And with 15 seconds remaining, I mean, really, when is going to be the time, right? So M80 with a fantastic play on that. The Nitro Cell really was about to be the tail of the tape there, but fortunately enough, that got remedied pretty quickly.
I was about to say, that's that moment. You're right about to deny the plant. You know it's going to work too, and then it gets caught on just like a random particle. It's like, oh, great. Well, guess we're going to have to fight for the retake now, but DS able to recover quickly, not get flustered in that position. Does shut down Canadian entirely, gets M80 their 4th round now. I mean, look at this C4. Look at how little time is left. What, 0.25 seconds left on the clock? Canadian's like, did you see that? I am the unluckiest man on the face of the earth. That's what he's talking about right now.
Just very unfortunate for DZ. I mean, he has the Overwatch, right, from Radio Window. But the other thing is DZ had 0 man over on AC. I mean, there's nothing really there to handle the cross or try and hope with any, piece of utility that potentially flies over, because poor NJR is all the way in, the Shadow Realm trying to shoot a pixel out of the sky. It's practically impossible. This is the worst clay pigeon ever for him. And I mean, just not really going the way of DZ the way that they would want it to. Again, they get up to the wall. They get there. They're going to climb it. They just keep sliding back down, man. It's 4-0 M80.
Yeah. Boulder keeps rolling down the hill, unfortunately, and like Sisyphus, DZ will start their journey again.
I knew
in
it was
round
a
5.
Sisyphus joke. I knew it.
Guys, you gotta set it up sometimes. It's a 1-2 punch. But they'll keep trying to roll their Boulder up the hill. We'll just have to see if they ever crest the top. Back to Tellers, though, and I mean, the answer, if you know the tale of Sisyphus, the answer is no, but hey, that's why sometimes real life doesn't always mirror the stories. But to DarkZero's credit, Sam, which you could say this for a lot of the other rounds, DZ were here. They were
trying.
they had
trying, Carter.
They are trying their little hearts out, and they were here in round 2 when they attacked Tellers because they saw no one was watching the site. They moved in, got the bomb down, and the round slipped away. But everything that is still hanging over this entire round is we got 95% there. If we just do exactly what we did before, at least in theory, we're right within striking distance of a win.
The odds say that it's favorable, but M80 say no almost every single time.
They're that one team in 100.
Absolutely. You got to feel for Canadian here. I think he's going to start untightening the bandana, just kind of help the blood pressure, especially after what potentially could be round 5. I think this might be it. We'll see what happens to the mental after this one. So far, so good for them, honestly. They've been playing lights out, even given the circumstances. They have been doing what they need to take control of the map, get some pressure on these squads. And Gomez, my God, man, the MP7 lays waste to DarkZero's odds on round 5. And Carter, what do you have to say about that?
I think this is about to be a career Rice round, personally. I think with Gavini and Pamazoo down, the new pickup is he's gonna be called to the occasion. I think he'll rise to, no, I mean, at this point, you've got, I mean, two of the highest performing players in DarkZero.
Oh, yes! Oh, baby!
I mean, listen, I know, you guys might think like, wow, Carter, how do you do it? It's, you know, it's all in the game, man. It's just, you gotta think about it sometimes. Rice does fight back, takes down Spoit too. That's a big kill right there. That counts for 2, honestly, given Rice's newness to the NAL. They've also cleared out the top floor now, so is it a 4v3? Yes. Is Rice on low HP? Yes, but Canadian has dropped down into the site, leveled the odds, and no, well, never mind. Now the diffuser is dropped inside the bomb site, but it's still a 2v2. Gomez does have a line on one player creeping down east, though. Active position 2. Oh no, the head just barely creeps away. DZ might do to M80 what they have done 4 rounds now and win a round that seemed lost and seemed already written. Gomez still has info on that player playing inside a courtyard. Can't find the shot just yet. There we go. What is this game? 5 rounds that seem to be going one way, and then at the last second, go the complete opposite.
That's the Rice effect, baby.
That is everyone just give it a round of applause for Rice. I mean, seriously, like, did he get all 5 kills? No, but he killed Spoit upstairs and retook top floor at a critical moment. That's the impact kill right there.
Yeah, he broke M80. He broke them with 1 kill. He didn't even, he knew he didn't need to kill anybody else, and that's why he didn't.
Spoit literally saw Rice killed him and threw down his mouse and walked away. He was just, I can't believe it.
Gomez has to be actually so angry that he hits like one of the cleanest 2Ks I've seen in some time. And it goes to a round L. Like that just sucks. Oh man. But very well done from DarkZero. And like we've been saying this whole time, it has not been the fact that they have been playing things incorrectly. It's just that M80 have either A, been more clutch, or B, have had like the one extra chess piece to move and be like, oh, well, I'm sorry guys, you can't do that. So DarkZero finally with 1 on the board. Finally, with a round for Rice as well. How to be feeling for that guy as he was trying to get things figured out. 2 kills for him as well.
10 seconds to
so
insertion.
let's see if they can continue on now, and hopefully, fingers crossed for our DZ fans at home, pick up round 6.
And after all that, the 4-2 half, not the worst. Because you talked about Bank earlier, that sometimes it could be a map that, depending on the day, could be defender side, it could be attacker side. And I think Border is a very similar way. A lot of the time, it really comes down to who's able to get that initial control and who's able to get that initial pick. And so far, M80 have proven quite excellent at that. And even when, to be fair, that DZ have as well, it's been a lot of, I'd call it kind of sometimes BO1 moments where just the luck happens to be on one side as opposed to the other on that day. But if DZ can, say, like, repeat some of Gomez's work on the defense, once we switch halves, this could easily be a 4-2 half, and DZ could make M80 look silly at the half spot. But no matter what happens, M80 are looking to get that 5-1 half inside around 6 as they move down below to vents and also make sure they stop DZ from getting close to an execute, which they have so consistently.
Yeah. Coolest thing for M80 they got going for them right now is the fact that usually defense is the side where Kino is tearing things up, right? But it's been the rest of the team really firing on all cylinders, which means like for the remaining of the stage, if Kino gets back to his form, which I mean, more than likely is just him trying to trade things out for his teammates and stuff like that, or just making entries for them and that kind of thing. If he gets back to form on his defenses, man, this team is going to be so difficult to deal with this stage. So really excited that they're coming out the gate swinging. We'll see if DarkZero obviously have something to say here to cap off this half, but really looking to see what DarkZero will do once they get to the defensive side. A nice read there from Kino as Canadians exothermic charge is being used on some soft breach, but not any longer.
So unfortunately, no breach charges.
They actually don't have any soft breach links.
They literally have nothing. Like no sledgehammer, no boogie drone, nothing. It's all just all
That's unlucky.
all just hard breaching. So you lose an exothermic, but I mean, listen, you're attacking vent, you're clearing out the top floor. You need some hard breaching for this armory wall, but you can get by with only one hard breacher as long as you're maybe a little lucky. Sure, it makes for a funny highlight, but really not the biggest deal overall. What's going to be a bigger deal for M80 is I was about to say the amount of players converging on Spoit's position on the top floor. 3 different players, I believe, Pambazu, Gavini, maybe MJR, all looking to take control away from M80. But Spoit retreats, and Gomez instead fills the gap on East Stairs, where everyone from DarkZero was moving into Armory and Archives. Now it's M80, but one player this time looking to try and shift his team's fortunes. Diaz also going for the 2-man rotate. There's a Thatcher around the corner. Oh, they both line up. Diaz only put down to 1 HP, gets a key shot onto Gavini. Makes it a 4v4, though effectively a 4v3 with how low Diaz is, but an official 4v3 because instead Spoit is hitting all the shots he needs to. Hamazu's wrestled control of the site away from the defense, though. So now DZ not only in a position to get the bomb down, but likely a much safer one than some of the rounds previously. Iconic going for a key retake, gets a key kill! Not again, man! You gotta be kidding me here. 5-1 for M80, another execute failed for DarkZero at the finish line.
5-1 for M80 and all smiles across the roster for them. Is that's the way you want to start off your season, man. Stage 2 looking pretty hot for them, at least for this defensive side here on Border, as they're able to get 1 over, or rather 5 over on DarkZero here for this half in pretty strong fashion across the board. I mean, whether it be through creative means or just sheer gunpowder, it seems like they have it in spades, man. So we'll see if they can continue their reign of terror on the offensive side. But as of now, this is M80's game to lose.
Once you get 5 rounds at that point, I mean, no matter what side you're going on, unless you're on one of those weird maps that, you know, just came out that has like 5-1, 6-0 halves, whenever you get those 5 rounds, no matter what, that's your game at that point. You could surely get 1 or 2 rounds over the finish line, but also makes for those big highlight games, those memorable games when the team who is down so far is able to mount such a convincing comeback. We'll see if DarkZero have that capability today, especially in round 7, as they'll need to win this one and the next few to deny M80 match point. Could see overtime if DarkZero can also get a 5-1 half, but at this point, DZ is just playing round by round and trying to stay alive as long as they can.
Defender has been discovered.
Just mind-boggling how M80 was able to stay alive practically for the majority of those rounds into the later portion of those rounds on a map like Border, one where you practically have 2 square feet to move around the entire time, and if you breathe wrong, Lynx, somebody shoots you in the head. So, like, especially up against DarkZero with how diligent they are about their angles and clearing things and getting these force pushes onto players. Just, I mean, a very strong showcasing of how talented M80 are at Rainbow Six.
They're clear, of course. We still need to see that talent translate.
Oh,
In NAL Stage 2, I was about to say, their attack design, just because we haven't seen any evidence yet. Round 1 of potentially many more to come. No, not too much damage exchanged either way. The Pambazu does lose some damage to the player sitting outside CC doorway. Evident of M80 on that top floor, not acquiring much control, but Gomez, a quick entry and a quick exit. with a frag in between. Canadian might be shut down, but nice shot by Pamba to recover onto an equally key operator. DZ love that Solus and might lose it, but taking down that Dokkaebi in turn, that'll make M80's clear not nearly as easy if those calls were still up.
That's about as even as you can get in these trades. The only issue is now is that M80 still have access to Lion and quite a bit of execution utility with Ying coming in too. Still some drones in tow for M80 as well, and we'll try to apply those to the situation. DS will be able to pick up Gavini, and this is just getting worse and worse for DZ. And E1D out and a couple more Candelas too, as Iconic is going to hold on to the balcony. This is all just to try and exploit DarkZero, get them to stretch thin, get them to try and pay attention to what's going on over here so M80 can continue the play rolling over on the office side. And it's worked out so masterfully up to this point. It's down to Rice and Pamba. Pamba on lower HP. Rice, we need to see the clutch here out of our new star player.
Well, not anymore, unfortunately.
It's my fault. You can chalk that one up to me.
Pambazu, the veteran as well, also not tall enough for the task. 6-1 now for M80 as they get a key first attack, and we'll just need to win one more in the next 5 rounds. Close us out in regulation. I guess technically the 4 rounds if you want to close us out in regulation. Math is a little difficult when you're working in such an abstract environment. But I mean, Sam, M80 start out their attacks. We're expecting a decent showing. And while DZ fight back, M80 clearly have border on lock and the ability to consolidate around positions, coordinate, have crossfires. It was all there and what we hoped for in round 7.
Yeah, so, you know, in other news, how was your day? Because I don't know if we have anything else to talk about. I'm just kidding. No, DarkZero, again, it's giving the exact same thing it gave on the first half, man. They're setting up properly. We see them going through the motions of what you would assume to be a successful round, and then M80 nip it in the bud. I think the best thing there for DZ is that they were able to at least keep things on equal toe there for at least a little bit. But once M80 smelled blood in the water, they saw the portion of the map that they could take over and start taking the fight to DarkZero. Everything was just thrown out the window at that point. DarkZero really didn't have a chance. And it seemed like M80 was really just waiting for kind of a trade situation or something to go their way over on, you know, that square portion of the map. And as soon as it did, they just started swinging everything. I especially like the fact that they had Iconic just sit outside on the CCTV window and throw all of his utility, just chuck it, and not do anything with it at all. All of DarkZero had their vision honed in on the breach, on what could possibly have been going on with security. Just such a cool moment there for M80 to add a distracting factor like that so the rest of the unit can try and work the map and catch some DZ people off guard.
Certainly caught all of us off guard with how one-sided this game has been so far.
I thought this was going to be the burner today. I'll be so real.
That's the funny thing is, I mean, you know, Lax talked about this with the wild card game about how even though it was a 7-2, some of those rounds were a lot closer than the scoreline might reflect. I mean, this game is another example of that, just even more hyperbolic of one. 6-1, but DZ were, again, right at the edge there to push a line over, or push a round over the line. And make this, you know, a 4-4, 5-4 game, something like that. See some closer scoreline than this. They were right there.
Something that's not 6-1.
Something that's not 6-1, essentially, is what I'm getting at. But it is like a 3-3 or a 5-4 or something like that. But M80 have just been so good in these late rounds. So good in the clutch. That's made the lead as stark as it is. NGR trying his best to start things off on a good note. And indeed he will. Kino, who has been so far the one weak link. Never mind. He's strong in this round because on the repeat, Kino's there for it.
Kino on 1 HP takes the angle links. What kind of a man is this? He's a beast. That's
I'm not
just
built like
ridiculous. Yeah, he's like that for sure, man. The confidence getting shown off right there. No more calls, and M80 working their way into sight. IQ will get a goo mine, but what the sprint out of Pamba! He'll go down. Doesn't expect the swing. Rice will at least be able to help out with that situation. Iconic will go down, and so will Gomez. Gavini will pick him up as a 3 versus 3. Rice will drop down low. Canadian with 1, and DarkZero. Yes, it's been a messy round, but they'll take whatever they can get if it comes like this.
Probably the messiest round we've had so far, or at least one that's taken place before the post plant. You know, on 1 HP, he's got active intel on Gavini, so even on 1 HP, that's an easy enough double for him to make. There is indeed the pre-fire lands. That's case dropped inside of the site. Spoit the boy wonder. Now in a 1v2 to get their first win, a dominant one for M80 if he can land these next 2 gunfights. Knows one player's in this corner. There's the head, but no shot to follow up. Rice clean with it. Keeps DZ alive for another round.
He didn't even need the remaining shots, man. He could have dinked Spoit with the first bullet out of that MPX. Rice showing up when DarkZero needed it most, and what a position to be in as well, as he's practically sitting inside of default or inside of tellers. Catches everyone off guard from M80, and that's the kind of moment that we needed to see DZ build up to on their defensive side. So we'll see if they can try and get this ball rolling now, potentially get some momentum here.
Good moment to keep them in the game. Of course, at that point, for M80 as well, I mean, with losing Iconic and Gomez, and then when they were both downed, and then Diaz was the first one killed out of those engagements, DZ had a set of circumstances that were very favorable to them by having 2 players down on the floor, could be finished off, and Kino put to 1 HP earlier on. It was a situation that was probably one of the most favorable they've had in this map so far, able to close that out. Very good to have a chance at getting these next 4 in a row. Just won tellers, they'll go back to Armory, back up to that second floor, where we saw M80 not really clear out the CC position early on, but clear out everything around it and basically force Panbazoo in an unwinnable situation by the time it came to a 1v4.
A lot of big utility pieces here for M80 as well. So these early engagements going to mean quite a bit, especially from what we've seen out of Kino. He's been put in the hot water pretty early on inside of these rounds throughout the last couple. So we'll see if he can try and right his wrongs. Really holding the cross here once again. You can see he switched out the scope. He's on the 1.5 now. He had the 3 times before. He's like, I think that's a little too close. I'm seeing a little bit too much. So try things out with the 1.5. We'll take out Pamba just a little bit. It'll be a trade back and forth on damage, and obviously Pamba's docked, so he will remedy himself very quickly. M80 is going to continue to try and work things from the south side of the map and just try and dot their I's and cross their T's before working their way in.
Finding some intel created by the defense too. So at least making an entry into CC or into break a lot easier later on. East is the main point of pressure that M80 want to apply so far, with Gomez and Kino making their way inside. Lion also sitting outside the radio window. Oh, the Frost breaking it open. Doesn't know Diaz is there, but Diaz certainly knows MJR is there thanks to that Dokkaebi call. We're all waiting for the call, maybe in the vault into the window. Push this quickly, but no, Gomez and Kino have both backed off as damage is exchanged on the opposite part of the map. There goes the hop out, and there's Diaz, the most patient man in North America, who finally finds his man.
And NJR definitely not happy about that one, as you can see in the webcam. Like I said, M80, the patience right now up against DarkZero, something that DZ is usually the king of. It's not the history of Siege. This time around, though, they're getting a little bit of a taste of their own medicine as M80 is practically delivering death by 1,000 cuts to DarkZero right now. Little drones, little piece of utility goes awry. NJR dies, a little damage to Canadian, and slowly coiling around this map, getting control of some of the more outward locations that we saw DZ holding on to prior, all in an effort to make things as difficult for the remaining 4 of DZ to try and hold on to this. M80 trying to build up here. Spoit might be accessing back end, as it looks like they want to try and get things planted over on the archive side. He'll swing right in through Mini, swings all the way around, still has one around the end. He's actually going to find the opposite player. It's going to be Rice. The plant's still getting stuck. Spoit has the cross, and it's all up to Panbazoo and Canadian, but Canadian can't find anything. He's dead. He's gone. It's up to Panbazoo to try and shut this down now, and he can't hold a candle to M80's light as they'll shut out DZ.
I mean, double 7-2s, man. It's been a quick day on NA so far. We'll have the desk likely to take a little bit longer to break this one down than it felt like the game even lasted.
Truly incredible stuff from M80. And I just want to highlight DarkZero quickly, because obviously we talked about M80 a lot this game. DZ, no slouch here, just really couldn't get that last 5% to push themselves across the finish line and make it to where they had some more rounds that could have went the way of M80. So with that being said, folks, that's going to do it here for us for Game 2. We're going to send you a quick break. We'll be back at the desk.